All right, with that, we'll bring this meeting to order. Tonight's workshop agenda has three items on the agenda: the Pine Haven Homeless Shelter, West Virginia Collective Theater, and a discussion regarding the operations audit and management strategy by Municipal Solutions LLC, which was presented to City Council at the last City Council meeting on Tuesday. You may view the workshop by logging on to Beckley.org or going to the city's Facebook page. And a reminder, this is a workshop, so there's nothing that will be voted on, and it's obviously open to the public, but there will be no public comments. So with that, I will go to the first item on the agenda. Representing the Pine Haven Homeless Shelter, Danielle Stewart, and I think you got Crystal Alonzo and Mike Horn here too, or is it just you?
Yes, no, got the crew.
Okay, great.
And I know this is faced this way, but I'm still facing you all.
We can readjust that if we want, unless you need it for the cameras.
What's that? All right. Anyway, my name is Danielle Stewart. I know none of you know who I am because I've never done this before. And I am chair of the board of Raleigh County Community Action. I have with me Crystal Alonzo, our executive director, and Mike Horn, who's the director of the Emergency Housing Center. When we talk about RCCAA, we need to discuss the impact we've had in the community right off the bat. We have 125 employees, the majority of which live within city limits of Beckley. We currently serve 315 families in our Head Start program, and again, the majority of those families actually live in Beckley. We transport over 4,500 people a month to jobs, medical appointments, and shopping in Beckley. We manage housing programs responsible for almost $45,000 a month in rent to landlords here in Beckley. We provide solutions and services to many of the problems the residents of Beckley face. The Emergency Housing Center, formerly Pine Haven Homeless Shelter, has been in continuous operation for 35 years. In 2024, we served 345 guests at our facility. Our services include housing, 3 meals a day, and intensive case management for individual guests. Our average guest stay is 36 days, primarily driven by the need for them to acquire identifying documents and the basic lack of available low-income housing in the community. As many of you have seen, and we've talked over lots of time, there's an increase in the number of unhoused individuals in the city. You can't drive down our streets without seeing someone pulling a cart or carrying a bag with all their belongings. Things have gotten worse with the new substance use treatment facilities popping up doing the 90-day dump. And as you remember, the 90-day dump, when Medicare stops, whether you're doing better or not, you're gone. And they all come here. They get dropped at the bus station. And I think that we can all agree that if you look between 2019 and now, the situation's much worse. And one of the things to note that is in 2019, we could house over 100 guests. Now we can only house 30. So when you look at that increase that you're seeing on the street, that's one of the reasons for it. We'll turn it over now to Crystal to talk a little bit more about how we've gotten into this situation.
Hey there. We had a workshop in August, and I gave you some information. I'm going to give you some more. Just take one back down. That's a 6 months budget to get us through the end of June. The funder that cut us, actually it's the DOHS, but the Coalition to End Homelessness manages that. So we lost $365,000, and we didn't know for sure that that cut was coming until 3 days into our funding year for that funder in July the 3rd. So during that time, we cut from about 18 staff down to 9. We cut an 80-bed shelter down to 30. And we've also applied for several grants as far as food security and things like that. And we have received about $20,000 for food security. In the meantime, we've met with previous city officials to discuss a long-term lease with the city and then assistance with the shelter. And we spoke with the mayor. We've had several meetings with him after the cut, but nothing was done. They're waiting for the change of hands at the city level. So I didn't know really at this point what else to do. If we don't receive any funding, though, we're going to have to close our doors February 28th. We don't have enough funding to continue. And the reason we're focusing more on the next 6 months is because I don't know for sure if DOHS will fund us for their next funding, for their next grant year, which starts July 1st. So I thought it best to just concentrate on these next 6 months.
And what is that total that you're looking for? Is it from just the city? I know you've been in contact with the county.
We're looking for around 60,000 for the city, but that.
Let me cover that.
Because,
Okay.
I mean,
If you don't mind.
Sure.
So right now, as you can see on your sheet, we're short $105,000 across the board. And what we're asking the city for is to commit to $61,000. This $61,000, though, is not direct cash. We're not asking for you to cut us a check. What we are asking for the city to do is to pick up the utilities and to pick up the maintenance of the facility. The utilities are about $35,000 for the 6 months, so about $5,000 to $6,000 a month for those utilities. The remaining $25,000 is what we typically spend in building maintenance. And what I kind of believe is that if the city picks up the maintenance, that may be an area that, because of public works and the economy of scale and the sunk costs from there, that while it would cost us $25,000 to do the maintenance and contract out, the city could probably do that for a whole lot less. And because it's an as-needed basis, it's not like, say, I'm not looking for you to cut a check today for $61,000 to give to the shelter. Utilities may be less, maintenance may be less, and working with public works in the city, we can reduce that cost. And really that's, so we're talking a dollar amount. It's not really the dollar amount that we're looking for as much as a commitment from the city to pick up for the next 6 months, the utilities and the maintenance.
and what are you requesting from the county?
So we're still $45,000 short after getting a commitment from this. We have meetings with Commissioners Duckworth and Hall next week. We also have meetings with Delegate Maynard and Roop coming up. We still haven't got those scheduled. We also have a request in for additional funding from the Coalition to End Homelessness. So this is not, we're asking Beckley for this whole lump sum. We're simply, we're just asking for the city to pick up the maintenance utilities, whatever that cost is, for the next 6 months while we continue to look for this other money. Longer term, one of the things to note, I am not and do not want RCCAA to become a line item in the city budget. This is the second year now that we've had to come and ask for money. Last year we were able to get it without city commitment. Crystal has talked to you about where the issues are. We're not alone in that. Southern West Virginia is intentionally being defunded by state agencies, and we're just another one of those that's on that list. And that's why we're working with our legislators about the bigger picture issues as we go through, because the money's there, but it's going to Northern West Virginia. It's not coming to us.
Did they give a reason why they cut it so much?
Do they give a reason? Yes, their reason is our grant submission wasn't written good enough. And that was their justification. And fine, if that's what you want to put. We just did our ESG evaluation. Mike, you want to talk about that?
Sure. So ESG just evaluated us, and we were third best shelter in the state. The only reason we wasn't first is because of building utilization. I don't have the staff. The ratio is 20 to 1. So if I have 20 people, I have to have at least one person in the building. I have 30, so 1.5. ESG, I've gotten 0 findings. My very first year, I got 1 finding. Ever since then, I've been perfect.
So when you look at our federal evaluations, we're great. When you look at the state evaluations coming through the Coalition and Homelessness, well, we're like one of the worst in the state. There is, again, an intentional effort to shift money to other parts of the state at the Southern West Virginia account. And it's not just us. There were several other nonprofits that closed when their funding got shifted to other locations.
Danielle, one thing that I'm right here.
I hear speaking like, wait a second.
I did not know until I came to the meeting the other night, and I got a great education there. I appreciate your staff and the board members and everything. Guys, we're the only homeless shelter south of Charleston. We're the only one in the southern part of the state. And, Some of us talk about my brother's keeper and all that. Well, we're there. And I believe, don't we have some HUD housing funding, Jessica, that we could help with? I mean, we can't make a decision tonight, but
Well, and another thing to point out before you answer that is the fact that we are regrettably asking the city for this money now, or this support now. Don't want to be a line item. The reality is this is not just a city problem. This is a county, it's a regional, and it's a state problem. Long term, it's going to take all of us to find this solution. We serve a 7-county region. We just, due to geography, Beckley's where it's at, is where the building's at. But we serve clients from Mercer, Greenbrier, Wyoming, Nicholas, Fayette. They all tend to find their way here anyway. So,
Right.
We serve more than just Beckley, just Raleigh County.
How much was the state cut? It was like 120,000. Is that correct?
No, the overall state cut was 300.
365. For some reason I had 120 on them.
So a couple of days ago, when we ran the numbers, it was 120,000 was what we were short.
Okay.
We have been going through, finding every efficiency we can find, cutting everything we can. We've got that number down to 105. We may, as time goes through, this is one of the things, you budget high, and when it comes in low, you're good. Could these numbers be less? Absolutely. We won't know till the end of the year what the real numbers were. And that's why we're not asking really for a firm dollar amount as much as we're asking for a commitment to cover those costs.
And Danielle, when do you all start applying for your grants?
It's Mike.
All different times of the year. We're funded through several different entities such as PATH, ESG,
Can you just
Coalition.
what PATH is and what ESG?
Emergency Solutions Grant and Pathways assisting the homeless. That one escaped me. But it's all different times of the year. So like one will drop in January.
Thank you.
Mike to the mic.
So PATH is in July. ESG is also in July. Child Mentors in March, and DOHS is in January, which it hasn't dropped, and it's almost the end of January.
So asking for grants is a continuous process with us. It's not just a one grant that funds everything. I think the sheet kind of lays out all the different funding sources that we have. And we're always looking for additional funding sources. Mike's on the grants.gov portal looking for other things. There may be something that he mentioned to me, but it's at least 2 years down the road before we would be eligible to get it. But it's funding for things like the homeless shelter is notoriously hard. It's traditionally been done through federal money, passed through to the state, passed through to us, which is really what we need. We don't need our local communities funding our shelter.
What about the the money that you have for the opioid? Is that possible to use some of that money? I know we have not used that yet.
That is a decision for the council to make. We do some substance use disorder counseling. We have
Sure.
AA meetings at the shelter and are definitely willing to expand those programs. I would just want to make sure that legally we are within
That's
those
what I meant, under
bounds.
the
And I think
guidelines.
that when we talk about the utilities and maintenance, I don't know. I don't think that would.
Right.
Now, if the city would want to do the additional 45, that may be something, because our staff is trained on substance use disorder treatment, on counseling, and we are running the meetings. But without a more firm legal definition on that, and we're happy to work with you on that,
think the
I would
biggest
not
problem
want
with
this.
the opioids money, we don't really have any true guidance of exactly how to spend it. That's why we've
from
been
the state, and
Just
we're waiting for
hang
the
out there.
state to do that. And then for the city's finances, Crystal has a slideshow that she will be presenting to council when Danielle's finished to go through the city's budget and where we're at and where the funding is that we have available. So, Jessica. Sorry, apologies.
Chris,
wrong
she's
name.
like, yes.
Jessica will do that. Crystal is my last finance director in Wilcox. So
Oh, okay.
I apologize. So Jessica will be presenting a slideshow, a PowerPoint, going through that for council so that it'll answer the financial questions on the city side. So, but we wanted to have Danielle and Crystal and Mike the opportunity to present their issues and exactly the amount they were talking about, because there's been a couple of numbers floating around. We just wanted to nail that down to actually figure out what it is they were asking for to do that. And so could you talk more about the maintenance costs? Like, what have you done in the past year? Because I know maintenance can be a lot, and I believe your building is pretty old.
The building is significantly old. I mean, I think we would all call it historic, which is part of the problem. So to give a little history of the building, and then we'll turn it over to Mike, who will be able to talk specifics on the maintenance. The building was state-owned, part of the Pinecrest Hospital, umpteenth years, I don't even know before, because it was well before me, I was born. But, and so, yeah, the building is owned. A couple of years ago, we were looking at moving the shelter. Because the state owned it, they wouldn't give us a long-term lease. Because they wouldn't give us a long-term lease, we couldn't get any grants to do any of the work that was needed at that facility. So working with Mayor Rappold and the previous administration and Governor Justice, we were actually able to get that building transferred from the state to the city. When that came, that also came with almost $1.5 million of grants from the state for us to do, to upgrade. The boiler was out, there was a leak in the roof, mold remediation. So they really helped, get us back to, get the building back up. But it is an old building, and there is, maintenance that's involved, and I'll pass that to Mike to talk more specifically.
So when the state gave us the money to remodel the building, all of Building B got remodeled. So that is completely remodeled as of 2 years ago. The boiler is 2 years old, steam condensate line's been replaced, so there's been many upgrades that we've done to the building over the past couple of years. The problem is our budget. We don't have enough in the budget to keep the building the way it is now. And we have people that are hard on our building because they didn't buy it. So they're going to peel paint off walls, just normal maintenance routine.
So normal maintenance, can you define that, like doors, windows, what?
Lights, doors, hinges, light bulbs.
Is there any big maintenance problems you're going to see in the next year or so that's coming on?
There is a float for the boiler. Whenever they replaced it, they didn't replace the float, and it is $2,500.
Anything beyond that?
Everything in that building is commercial, so like if a hot water heater goes out, it's also $2,500.
But we're not projecting anything else, and that's kind of the thing with the maintenance. While we have a budget of $25,000, it may be significantly less. We just don't know, and that is a risk that we're asking the city to share.
Seemed like the roof and everything's in pretty fairly decent
Yeah,
condition.
the roof was replaced 3 years ago. I do believe that we have one small leak somewhere that we're looking at getting repaired.
No, it is repaired.
Oh, it is repaired. So, okay. So we did have that. So we have a new roof. And, like I said, the two biggest issues maintenance-wise, big picture, is the big commercial type stuff when it goes out, as well as damage done by our guests. The reality with our guests, when we think homeless, well, they're just homeless. Well, they have what we call coexisting conditions. And what that means is they're not just homeless, they're also suffering from mental health issues. They're not just homeless, they're suffering from substance use disorder issues. So we are a low barrier shelter, which means as long as they're not a threat to the staff or a threat to other guests, we take them in. They come in drunk, we take them in. We don't let them drink on premises. We don't let them do drug on premises. We're definitely not a safe use facility, which is why you'll see a lot of people go out and come back. But by our grants, we are required to accept basically whoever comes to us. And so we get a lot of interesting characters as our guests.
Right, and you say a lot of them do come back, but I'm sure you have some success stories too.
Absolutely.
I met with Mike last week, and he was filling me on everything that they do for the people that are there. Obviously it's a last-ditch effort for somebody to have to go to the homeless shelter. I mean, nobody would want that. Nobody would want a relative to do that. But I was encouraged by everything that Mike said that you all provide for these people while they're there, and to help them get back on their feet. So you have some. I mean, of all the people that leave and come back, maybe 2 weeks later or a week later, I mean, is there a lot of success stories where people still live around here and have jobs and own a residence and things like that?
There's actually 3 employees for Raleigh County Community Action that started out at the shelter.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah, and so, there, one individual that I took there a couple years ago, in trouble with the law. He was homeless, sleeping in a wrecked U-Haul van out by Sheets. Substance use, mental health issues, and just a whole bunch of stuff. Took him to the shelter. Now that was the first stop. Took him to the shelter, got his case management. He was fortunate. One of the things people don't know, if you've got your driver's license and your birth certificate and social security card, we can get you housing pretty fast. The problem is most guests come to us and don't have those documents. And it just takes time, depending on the state, if it's from out of state, how to get these documents. So that's typically the biggest holdup that we have. But this individual, finally got stable housing, got mental health treatment, now works at, I always say Texas, but it's Logan's. And I always say Texas. I don't know why. But now, works at Logan's. He's had a steady job now for 18 months. He's actually in our longer term housing program, so it's one of the rent checks that I sign every month as we go through. We have a lot of successes, and you don't hear a lot about those. I won't lie. We have a lot of failures. People come in. We do occasionally. I think, Mike has said we get drifters, for lack of a better word. They go south in the winter, and they come north in the summer, and they stop by and spend a couple of weeks with us, and then go on. We do try to focus our efforts on the people that want to be here or have to be here, so we can help them. But occasionally, especially with a larger facility, low barrier, we took anybody coming. I don't want to say we're selective now, because we want to help anybody that comes in, but just due to the number of beds that we have, if we can't kick anybody out to bring in somebody who may be more deserving.
When someone comes into the homeless shelter and you have to do intake, are they resistant to that intake when they're not?
Mike, you want to answer that?
No.
No, ma'am. They normally come in and they're just happy to be out of the cold or happy to get something to eat.
Right.
They're normally pretty compliant whenever they come in.
That's good. And are we the only homeless shelter? Well, clarify, Danielle, the cut from the agency up north?
Yes.
Yeah. How much was that deficit that we were expected to get?
$365,000.
Well, okay. So were any of the other ones cut drastically?
They've done a different application in rating and ranking.
Uh-huh.
So they've just done everything different. They wanted to give more people an opportunity for funding.
And when you say they, who
The West Virginia Coalition did homelessness
and
specifically.
do you have a contact? Let's put it this way: has anybody from the city or county reached out to these people?
I do not believe so. Not to my knowledge, no.
Yeah, I mean, you know how it is.
Yeah. Usually when we're dealing with them, that's where in the past we've done with state legislators.
Right.
Versus the city or county. And like I say, we have meetings planned for next week with a couple of our delegates. And that will be one of our asks to them. Because from the Coalition and Homelessness perspective, they answer to the state. And so we get the state on board, then things become easier. And that's part of our longer term solution.
The people that's coming to your shelter over, is that outside, when I say outside of Raleigh County? Because I remember years ago, the gentleman down in Huntington, they closed down a whole lot of not motels, but the shelters and stuff like that. They said, well, what are we going to do? They said, well, we're going to go to Beckley. So the people here in Raleigh County, we have very people in Raleigh County coming to your shelter, or just more?
I'm going to let Mike answer that question.
Okay.
So in 2013, We served 418 individuals, and 295 of them was Raleigh County residents.
2023. Okay.
We know what you meant.
So, the majority are, in fact, Raleigh County. And what we are finding is that the majority that are not, like say, and I hate to use the term, but it's the 90-day dump, because we are geographically located, we got the bus station, when the substance use facilities move those people out, we are the recipients. We are also the recipient when SRJ and the federal prison release people, though typically, especially the federal prison, has a much better plan for those transitioning than does SRJ. And that's just a nature of our geography, and that's a little harder to fix.
And to answer a question earlier, and for the younger people in the crowd and for people not from this area, that used to be Pinecrest Sanitarium. It was founded by our state legislature for tuberculosis patients, and it was first opened to the public in 1930. So, 95-year-old building.
Yeah. My grandfather was there for tuberculosis many years ago. And it's such a great facility. When we talk longer term, because of space utilization, there's a lot of space there. And we've talked about, how do we turn the other spaces maybe into one-bedroom apartments so that as soon as they can move out, they move in. When we think of the space, you think of the building and the parking lot. It also includes a whole lot of the back, too. So there's an opportunity back there to develop when we look at creating low-income housing and other stuff. One of the things we've been reluctant to do, though, is take those kind of things on. I mentioned earlier, I signed about $45,000 worth of checks going to landlords in Beckley every month. Charles House, we pretty much all of those are ours that we have in. Don't blame me for the problems. We have people, but we work with First Choice Properties, to get to find places. So, it's that unseen economic impact that we have that a lot of people don't know about, that not necessarily part of the shelter, but part of the solutions when they come out of the shelter is that economic impact. And, we're in talks with a couple of landlords developing properties, the Hargrove Street, Beckley Hospital, the old Beckley Hospital, about how we can work together, because it helps them if we can say, hey, we're going to lease these block of 10 rooms. That's a big benefit for them because now they know they can count on that steady income coming in. And so, again, that's all part of the longer term solutions and opportunities. And we'd love to work with you because technically it's Charles Building. We still have not actually gotten a lease from the city. So that's another thing that we're going to have to tackle at some point in time, how we do that. And that's just, again, we are actively out there trying to close these financial gaps without asking the city for money. It's just, we're at crunch time again, and I don't have a choice.
So you're funded through what date? Is it February 28th? Is that correct?
We estimated, February 28th is as long as we can go.
So worst case scenario, what happens March 1st? Completely shut down?
Yeah.
Everybody
but, we'll do what we can to find other locations. We have a bus. Maybe we bus. Personally, I want to bus them to Morgantown. But that's because that's where the Coalition in Homeless is. And if they've got the money, then they should have the beds. But
that sounds like a good idea.
But our goal will be to try to find something for those 30, and then the next 30 days would then be spent. We've got files we're going to have to move out, and we've got all of that, and it'd be a negotiation with you all about what to do, because last thing we want to do is leave this huge facility with nobody in it, because we know what happens here when you do that, and especially with it already being historical as the homeless shelter. Yeah, it'll be occupied.
Can you answer to how often the police department is involved?
Hardly ever, to be honest. I think we had 333 calls to EOC last year, and most of those were ambulance. Somebody needed to go to the hospital, couldn't breathe. But as for police, it's very rare.
Again, total reality, we do have clients who get into fights with each other. We do have overdoses that have occurred. It's the nature of being a low barrier shelter of the things. I would argue that for the most part, it's still better for a guest to be in the shelter than it is to be outside. And one of the things that we've discussed kind of internally on the criminal aspect, because if you talk to a lot of residents, it's well, why don't we just throw these people in jail? Well, it's cheaper for us to run our operations than it is for the county to pay the jail bill for us to put someone in there. And that's where that's where we provide a service to the community that a lot of people don't necessarily see.
Anyone else?
So just to be clear, the line items you're wanting the city to do is the building maintenance and then the utilities on here, and then you're going to ask the county for the 84 fringe.
Well, we're going to have, it's, the whatever that gap is 45,000. And we're not just the county.
Right.
I'll be out with a couple in the corner if that's what it takes, but, we're trying to close that gap. I think we can do it. Since things got public, we've gotten calls. It's just we have not gotten commitments from anybody. There's a lot of people that want to help, and so we're just now working to try to change those those requests to commitments. And we have lots of meetings at the county and the state, as well as here, to make that happen.
Anything else?
Any other questions for?
Thank you, Danielle.
Yeah, thank all three of you all, and
you
thank
might
you for your hard work.
And you might have some more questions after Jessica's presentation.
Sure.
Thank you.
In the left-hand pocket of your binder is my very short, brief conversation about the HUD funding that we have. So we currently have remaining from our fiscal year 2023, we have $28,000 and some change left in HUD funding that we could spend in 2024 or 2025, I guess we are now. The City Council previously approved this for paving projects, and then our fiscal year 2024 balance of HUD funding that we have is $300,555. The City Council had previously approved our 2024 to go to $60,000 of it to administrative cost, and the remaining $240,000 for paving. Next slide.
And that paving, you want to go over
Yes.
what that paving is for?
Yes. So our current paving project that we were intending to spend this money on is Ewart Avenue. And it would be from Harper Road to the Exhibition Coal Mine, would be the city's part of the Ewart Avenue. The remainder of it is the state's road, so we can't do much with that. We are estimating that we reached out to a contractor to get an estimate, and we did not get that estimate back in time, but we're estimating it would be no more than $250,000 to have Ewart Avenue paved. If we are allowed to spend up to 15% of our money toward public services, and this would qualify under the homeless shelter would qualify under that. So that would allow us to spend $45,000 and a few dollars out of our HUD funding to give to them, and that would leave $223,000 still yet left for paving. If we wanted to go that route, that would give us the ability to still yet come real close to having Ewart Avenue paved out of the HUD funding. And if you look on the next slide, we also have budgeted contributions to other entities. We currently have $132,000 and some change that is available from the budget, and we have $80,000 that we still have remaining that we haven't spent. So we could, in essence, pull the rest of that $15,000 or the difference there out of this fund without any problem.
To do Ewart Avenue, or you're talking about out of the
To finish
45,000?
funding out of the 45. So we
Yeah.
could do 45 from the HUD funding and the remainder out of the general fund.
Because in your comprehensive plan, one of the 0 to 1 year goals in there on page 90, under goal 1.2, brand and market both the region and the city outdoors recreation amenities. It says we need to rename Ewart Avenue as the Coal Mine Way. And so it's tough to rename a road when you don't redo the road at the same time. And if it's been budgeted for that, again, we have other funds to help with this thing. And so the HUD funding is earmarked. So there's, again, we found numerous ways if council wants to, but Hewart Avenue is definitely a priority on all the residents there because it does need to be repaved. Significant dig-ups have been done on that road. Those residents have been waiting for a repaved for quite a while. And so we haven't brought them in here to speak about their issues on the road and their need for it being repaved. But there is funding, according to our budget, where we could do both, or just depending on how council wants to pool the funding. If they want to use that HUD funding, then if we do end up having a higher quote on that road, if it's more than the 225, then you're going to have to pull more out of your general fund. If you, again, if you use the entire HUD funding and it ends up being more, you're still going to have to pull it out. But there is this current fund that we can use for what is it? the 80,000. What's the requirements and what we can use that for?
The 80,000 for the contributions to other entities.
Right. So that is open to be doing. The HUD funding is kind of tied down to specific uses of that. And so you want to usually use that funding for those uses, and then that way general fund can be used for all the purposes and different things like that, like examples like this. Questions regarding the financing? And I think we have Bill Roop on the line. Is he on there? Oh, he's not joining. Well, the county, Bill Roop did say he wanted to join. I talked to him today, and he says they were they wanted to help on this project. They see the need in the community. It's just, this is the first time we actually got the solid numbers on what that need was. And so we can definitely coordinate with the county on figuring out what it is. And if they're getting extra funding from other sources, we definitely want to figure out what that is and work those numbers out to do that. And so we are in contact and working with the county, Bill Roop and Jay and Doug, regarding what they're able to help put towards this.
And Dan, you said you have a meeting with them next week?
Yes,
Okay.
I think, Crystal, you talked to Duckworth today?
Yeah, he's working on getting meeting together the first part of next week.
Okay.
I don't have the date.
As well as Commissioner Hall.
Okay.
So we have two separate meetings there that we're working on.
Great.
City manager hit on one big thing. You know, I would love to walk in here Tuesday and say, hey, we just got funded $105,000, you can keep all your money.
Right.
You know? And that's another reason that I would, we're not asking for a lump sum check
Right,
from
just a
the
check.
city.
Yeah.
So that, okay, we may need help for 3 months, but okay, boom, all of a sudden we got these additional funds, then we can take that burden off of the city.
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
Good job.
Anything else? Okay. Well, again, I appreciate you all. We'll move on to the next item, the West Virginia Collective. And I believe Kelly Gano or Leslie or who's
We'll
speaking?
have Leslie go first. She'll give her presentation, and then Kelly can follow up with that.
Sorry. Thank you all for, we realized when there was some discussion the other night, Michael spoke to me, and we have new council members, the mayor, the city manager, who doesn't know so much about the theater. So, So, Anthony, can I have the first one, please, and then the second one? So there's a brief history there for you. The Raleigh Playhouse and Theater was first opened its doors in December 2012. It was a dream brought to life by the Beckley family. However, by November 2019, the theater faced closure. Concerned citizens, deeply saddened by the prospect of losing this cultural gem, approached the city with a plea for its salvation, and thankfully their voices were heard. And I understand that Sherry was very active in this and making sure that it happened. So by January 2020, the theater officially came under the City Parks and Rec Department, ushering in a new era of hope. Things were going great. We had a lot of good things planned, and then just a few months later, the unexpected, the pandemic. The theater was forced to shutter its doors, a silence replacing the sounds of the cheers and the applause. Yet even in the face of adversity, the spirit of the Playhouse endured. By fall of 20 and spring 2021, we had a limited program of events cautiously resumed with just a little bit of entertainment for the community during such uncertainty. By the following fall, the theater had triumphantly returned to full capacity, a testament to the resilience of both the arts and the community that cherished them. It is truly a remarkable theater. The Beckley's, it's beautiful. If you've ever been in there, I hope if you haven't, you would come. It's a haven for all forms of artistic expression, from captivating stage productions and soulful concerts. Miss Janine's been on the stage before on several occasions, belting out her Motown, to lively civic events, heartwarming birthday parties, and even classic moving screens. The Playhouse offers something for everyone. Now, I didn't make a screen for this because I figured it would make him a little uncomfortable, but at the heart of all of this stands Shane Pierce, our very, very dedicated general manager. He is a phenom, a whirlwind, if you all know. He does it all. He is chief cook, bottle washer. He is the tech guru, the sound guru. He does the concessions. He cleans. He schedules. He has learned 2 different types of very difficult software in the last 2 years. He does it all, and he is a one-man person. It's the only employee there. If there's a problem, somebody from the department, oftentimes it's me or somebody else that goes in and fills in for him. Even during the pandemic, when we closed down, he immediately ported over to Black Knight to help with feeding boxes for the county. And the governor allowed the golf course to be open, if you all remember. Shane helped there as well. So he is always ready to do anything we ask him, and he works long and hard at the theater, and we couldn't do it without him. So a round of applause for Shane. Excuse me. So, and Shane helped me put this all together. So the next slide, this is just some of the organizations that the theater, that come to the theater routinely. As you can see, we have a whole list of nonprofits. There's also businesses and individuals, and this list is not comprehensive by any means. It was just some of the ones that come the most frequently. And then the next one is when there was first a discussion. So last July, Jessica and Shane and I and Adam had a conversation about what we were charging. We had not raised our rates in my department at all through anything. The pool, the theater, the exhibition coal mine, any of the things that we do. And it was decided that maybe we needed to look at some of those rates. And we looked at the theater, and in discussions, we just decided that we needed to charge a little bit more. And then there was some backlash about there was a few people who spoke out about it. So Shane and, excuse me, I did a comprehensive research on what other theaters charge. And as you can see, we are one of the only theaters that charge weekly rates. Everybody else just, and I was so surprised at some of the prices and how very, very expensive it is. We do not have the rates here for the Mathena Center, but it's estimated when I called Pat Allman, who was the office manager for Jerry Rose. If you all remember a couple years ago, the Beckley Dance Theater was unable to secure the Woodrow, so they had to go to the Chuck Mathena Center. The 3 days they were down there, it was $17,000. But Pat told me with that 17, you got programs and ushers. So it's very expensive as well. And so you can see I have here what our rates were and what they are now and what they were prior. So they did go up from a half day was $75 to $150. A full day was $150 to $225, and our weekly rate went up from $500 to $800. And these are all the theaters that we could get quotes from in the state. I included here just the sheets that we routinely give to our customers, our rental policies, and our rates. Sir Walter's, which is the bar that's downstairs, is also available for rent. The Collective does take advantage of that. We write them a ABC letter to the Alcohol Commission and let them use that. All we have to do is the Alcohol Commissioner comes in, makes sure it's clean. We write the letter endorsing the event, and then they get the special bond, they pay it, and they take care of everything. But we do charge an additional fee for that. They don't use that like some of the people that will rent it for a longer period and then only use the ABC liquor license for the nights that they're actually doing a performance. And I don't know how much money they make. I don't know how many people. I mean, I know that we don't allow them to have more than what the fire marshal says can be in the building. But once they pay us our rate, we don't know. We don't know. We don't take a percentage of their profits or anything like that. And then the next page is the most important one. We just went back 3 years. We do pay the Bickeys $3,000 a month for the facility. We did not pay that during the COVID. It was less than that. We have discussed whether at some point maybe we would like to purchase the building. As Danielle was talking about, the Pine Crest of the building is old, I think, I don't know. It used to be a theater. So, and it was been here for a very long time. Some of you that are from here might know how very old it is.
Oh.
It's old. Yeah, it's so much nicer to call. The roof, we had a problem with the roof a couple years ago. They've done some pretty extensive plumbing, different things like that. They have a man that they just call, we call them and they take care of it. So the rent is $36,000 a year, and then the utilities, as you can see, have gone up, which is one of the reasons that we decided to raise our rates. The miscellaneous expenses are salaries and compensation and all those things that go into that. Last year, we did purchase a new projector. We can't do what we do without the projector, and the Bickeys were really not wanting to do that, and it was an asset that we could take with us and use at other facilities, so we did decide to go ahead and buy that. And then you can see our revenue has been increasing. It's doubled in the last 2 years and been given the opportunity. I'm sure we can do more. And then so we have a net loss of $107,000, but that loss makes up less than 3% of the total budget of Parks and Recreation. Which my budget's right about $4 million, a little over 4 right now. And so.
What would be some of the expenses, like they get you the 70,000? Is that like salaries and?
It's mostly salaries, our FICA, our compensation. We do buy goods for the for resale for the concession stand. Shane, do you think of any other big expenses that go into just that miscellaneous?
General maintenance stuff. If a pipe rusts through, Robbie comes by and fixes those very simple basic maintenance stuff.
So are we reliable for all maintenance?
No, Bickeys take the large maintenance projects. The roof, they replaced that several years ago. HVAC, all of that stuff's under the Bickeys.
Okay.
But we replaced the light bulbs, small
Yeah.
And just general, it is like Danielle had this idea a couple years ago. She was there renting the facility, and when it came time to clean up, she just bought a blower and blew all the popcorn down to the bottom, and then you just clean it up. And Shane thought it was a good idea, so we bought him a little blower. It's things like that, just little things that go into it. To take care of brooms, we go through an awful lot of rags and cleaning supplies because there's bathrooms upstairs on the 3rd floor where the dressing rooms are. If you've never had a tour of the place, you should come. Mr. Bickey was a wonderful man, but he didn't know much about theater design. And the dressing rooms are up on the 3rd floor, and if you walk across, you make noise, you have to be very quiet. Then the main floor, the stage is wonderful. There's some good lighting. The acoustics are good, but there are no wings. There's no backstage. There's hardly any place for storage. And then downstairs, the bar is lovely, and just wasn't maintained very well, but it is usable and people do like it, and we do rent it out often for private parties and the poetry that goes on and some of those other things. So we do utilize all of the building, and we have discussed in the past if we could find a couple of really good bartenders, we might keep it open and open it back up. We have a lot of requests for that, but as you all know, it's just difficult sometimes to find good help. So we haven't explored that, and especially since the people that want to sell alcohol are willing to do it on their own. And we would have to get an extension of our liquor license from Black Knight. We could get an umbrella one, but it would cost about $1,000, doesn't it, Jessica? And we've just never thought it merited that yet. So.
I'm sure insurance is in this, or is it under umbrella policy?
Do they carry the insurance on the building? And we probably have some type of liability for just, yeah, but we don't insure the building.
Okay.
Do you all remember when all the pipes froze? Was it last January? One of the ones, and the whole waterfall, the whole stairwell became a waterfall. And we just called the Bickeys and they took care of all of that.
Okay.
I guess, Shane, is he responsible for all the bookings and everything else?
Mhm.
And sorry to cut you off, Leslie, but, 365 days out of the year, give us an idea of how approximately what percentage of that is it actually rented out to somebody?
Well, we talked about that this morning. Out of the whole, of course, weekends are the biggest. So 52 weekends. I think he has 4 to 5 weekends off the whole year. He works almost every weekend, unless he makes prior arrangement and somebody else from the staff, myself, Wendy, we go up there and work the event for him. So, but that's not just weekends. We do, the collective rents it sometimes for 30 some days at a time. Theater West Virginia had it for a whole week when they did A Christmas Carol. Yeah. I know the Motown production, some people do it. I would say, I think we discussed it, did we not, Shane, that at least 90% of the time the theater had something going on. 85 to 90%.
Really? So there's not much room to grow the revenue other than raising the prices. In other words, if it was only booked 25% of the time, maybe we could find activities and promote it better.
Oh, and see, Shane's, if there is a lull,
yeah,
we'll do a movie. We'll do an event. We do something. We had a series of when after the COVID, when it was kind of slow, we did a series of science fiction movies. Those were very popular. If we find that there's nothing, or if there's a slow time, we'll find something to do. But it just seems like there's always, the Y uses it. Theater West, the Beckley Children's Theater uses it for their summer camp. It's busy. There's a lot going on there.
So basically, but there's not much room to grow the 16,000.
No.
So
but then once again,
yeah.
I don't think we took it over thinking that it was ever going to take care of itself. It's kind of one of those things that Parks and Rec does, just like the Youth Museum is. It's a quality. It certainly was thought to be the linchpin of the downtown revitalization. If it was just going to be another building that was going to sit there empty, but we went up there, we got the marquee working, we got the windows cleaned. It looks like a viable business. And I was at a meeting today with Michelle Rodolini, and she talked about how on her end of Main Street that you heard her, Sherry, she said she just doesn't hear the stories that other people hear. They haven't had people coming in. The more that goes on, the more foot traffic there is. And I think that was the thought, that if we keep this, and then also, you all, we have Woodrow, which is expensive, seats 1,000 people. We have Tamarack, right around 200, but it's outside of the city limits. We don't have anything like this. This is what we have. This is where the arts and culture and a live theater happens in our community, and performance, and lots of kids on that stage, given opportunities.
Anyone else? No questions? Now, is Kelly going to speak? Are you going to speak too, or just Leslie?
I can if you guys have questions. I'm just going to reiterate.
Okay. So we're good.
This was really helpful for our perspective.
Yeah.
If you just want to go to the 16,000
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Leslie, as always. All right, next item on the agenda is discussion regarding the operations audit and management strategy by Municipal Solutions LLC. Is David?
First of all, is Angela, where did she step out? Okay. Yeah, Angela's going to go over our bidding process to help council understand how we go about our bids, what's our process for our bids, and different things like that. Did David get online yet? David from Municipal Solutions?
I'm speaking to him right now.
Okay, perfect. So I guess first of all, I wanted to talk to council a little bit about the process to go through this, because we have, as the city, passed this comprehensive plan 2 months ago. This is our map to what we want to do for the city from now until 2045. And so it's wonderful. This guide it's brought in a strategic plan, a year from 0 to 1 and all the way to 5 years plan. And so in the plan, it will list out the different steps we need to take to get to what it is. Because you've had a lot of people, a lot of public input. I believe it's up to 1,000 people input on how to create this strategic plan. And so in your packets and in the strategic plan, in numerous places, I just want to direct you to page 9, the implementation part of this is the priority action item. It says the following 3 action items should be prioritized to effectively guide the implementation of this plan. The very first thing on this item is to conduct a City of Beckley organizational analysis to determine the appropriate staffing needs and the inclusion of the planning development. So the very first thing that we need to do in order to really effectuate and go about this is to conduct an audit or an analysis of our organization. And that's what this the RFP was to do, is to start the steps to go through to complete our comprehensive plan. So the RFP was to go out there and find a company who could do this for us, because there's a lot of moving parts. We're very big. We are known as a small city, but you're actually a very large city with numerous departments, large budgets, complex strategies, and different things like that. So it really takes a lot of information to find out how to process, how to be more efficient, changing the demographics to actually start complying with what's in this plan. Because in this plan, if you go to the back, the implementation page, the 80 or 89 and different things like that, and then 90, it starts out with all the different things from 0 to 1 year on what we should start doing as a city. And so to help do that, you're going to have to reassess where we're spending the city's monies in the different departments so we can start aligning with what this plan is. Because this is what the community, you, and the city wants to succeed in doing in the next, over the next couple of years. And so in order to do that, we need to realign our budget, realign our priorities to match the comprehensive plan. And so doing this efficiency audit of the departments is in line with that, the very first step that we need to do, so that way we can be in line with all the different steps that we need to do to follow this comprehensive plan. And so Angela is going to talk about the bidding process, if you would, about our city bid process, how we go about doing that, what is it, the steps we take to do the RFP, the timeframes, and different things in that regard. Helpful with the mic. We need you on the mic, unfortunately.
Okay, we do this all the time, the bids and the RFPs. I mainly am involved usually when it comes to grant funding. So anyways, we are required by law, Mr. Fowle can correct me if I'm wrong, we are required by the state to advertise for a bid and an RFP, class 2 legal ad in the paper. in the paper twice. We do it a week apart for this RFP that we're talking about. We did that. We did it on December 28th and January 4th. After that, we usually just give the companies, whoever, some time, contractors, whoever, some time to get their proposal together. Not working. That's okay. To get their proposals together and present them. Usually within the RFP, we just set up dates. Sometimes we allow them to ask questions, give dates that they're due. We did that in this proposal as well. We gave them time to ask questions and when we would answer them. No one did ask any questions or anything with this. Anyways, they just have when the proposal's due. That's it.
When was this one due? So you said it was posted December 28th, January 4th, and when was the actual deadline for it to be turned in?
The proposal was due January 8th, which I think was a believe was a Wednesday.
So how long does the code, does it mention how long the process is supposed to be?
No.
For something this large, how much turnaround time would you usually allow? Because this seemed really, really fast.
You know, a lot of times, especially with like grant funding, a lot of times we would probably do a couple weeks. This was not grant related. So, and I know we wanted to get this out there and get it done. So, anyways, we just came up with that date.
Because I know a gentleman that put an article in the paper that it was only 5 days, and he was saying that it didn't give him enough time to.
Well, like I said, the first time it was advertised was December 28th, which was a Saturday, and then the next time was a week later, January 4th on a Saturday. So from the last date it posted to when it was due, no, that was only 4 days, but it was originally posted December 28th. The first time it was posted was December 28th.
My biggest issue with the dates posted, if you look, the 28th was a Saturday. Then you had 30th and 31st were Monday, Tuesday. Well, you know, no one worked Tuesday and Wednesday on the 31st and the 1st, so they probably didn't work on the 30th. So you have the 2nd and 3rd, they might have been in the office, and the 6th and 7th. That only gave them 4 days, and I feel like that's maybe a reason we only had one bid, and that personally, you know, worries me a little bit that maybe there were some other companies that could have, you know, gave us a little more idea of where the cost would be or should be, or, you know, just give us some other options.
Right,
you know, and it being the holiday seasons, there's a good chance in those, what did I say, 4 or 6 days, that they didn't even work, but maybe 2 days. So that's concerning to me that it was just the 28th, you know, the 4th, and then due on the 8th. If I didn't see it to the 4th, there's no possible way I'm going to get a 100-page report in 2 working days.
Yes.
And did you also, we did have some people reach out that just said they could not. Is that right? Do we have some other firms reach out and wanted to?
Yes, we advertised not just with the paper. I also posted it on some various websites you can post RFPs and bids and things like that on. So I posted them there. We published it in the paper, but then we also sent the proposal to 4 different firms. 2 of them just never responded. I mean, I know they received them, but they did not send a response back as to why or anything like that. One of the firms, I believe, did respond, just said they would not be able to get it together in time. And then Municipal Solutions was able to get it on time.
Okay. Can I also ask one? I'm sorry. I just, you know, you and I are kindred souls when it comes to this kind of thing, grants and all. So, were either one of those firms more locally situated? I mean, at least like this side of the country?
No, I'm not sure where. One of the ones we sent it to is Baker Tilly. I don't know where they're out of. I don't know where they're based out of.
Ann Lewis was in Virginia, but there is a Baker Tilly office in Charleston right behind the convention center too, so I think they're kind of spread out everywhere.
What about the firm that did our comprehensive plan? Did they?
They are the ones, they did respond, but said they did not have enough time. They're out of Virginia, they're in Alexandria. And the other firm, they're out of Pennsylvania, out of Pittsburgh. And they just didn't respond at all.
Okay.
I just think the time frame should have been longer.
Well, you had New Year's and Christmas, so
Right.
they really, I mean, most people weren't working. So it's kind of hard to get them all together to even put something together like
Yeah.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that was ridiculous. It's like, you weren't looking for me.
Any other questions you need to ask?
I think we need to get more bids.
Run it again.
All right, perfect.
And this time,
Is that
I think
okay?
we need
Yes.
to
Are you
give
okay?
them a little more time.
Give them at least, what, 2 weeks? 3
Yep,
weeks?
that's what I'll give you.
And Angela, that's no reflection on the work you do. We know the work you do is,
Oh, no, that's fine. No, I don't.
I think just being in the holiday season kind of really is my biggest pressing issue. I mean, from the 28th to the 4th, not many people work that week, in my opinion, I would say.
And a lot of people probably, like you said, went on vacation.
Yeah.
Off, New Year's,
for the
Christmas,
holidays.
all the way
They might have
through
worked, but they might not be, fully in, ready to go. They might have been still thinking about the New Year or Christmas.
Right.
I mean, you have to be looking for something to do bad.
No, I was going to say, is David still on the line? I was going to say, it sounds like we want to go out and get more bids on this kind of a thing. But while we have David on the line, do you have any questions on like this type of work? Because again, it is the first thing in our comprehensive plan that we're wanting to do an assessment of our organization. And so if we want to go out for bid for longer, we can definitely do that. But while we have one of these vendors here to talk about these kind of things, do you have any questions specifically regarding the process they go through, what they're going to analyze, how they're going to help us achieve our comprehensive plan? And that's definitely something David can speak to at this particular point.
I have a question or 20.
you
I
pull
would
it
like
up
to
on the
know
screen?
why some of this data seems so old. What was the date of the last management and operations audit your company did?
We're doing one right now. We're doing 3 of them right now.
I'm sorry, Anthony, could you?
Can you repeat that again?
Yeah, we're doing 3 of them right now, 2 in the US and 1 internationally.
How many cities of our size have you done in the US?
20, 25.
How is it possible you can have a completed report issued in 90 days?
It's just the process that we've used over the years. It's not, the completed report for a preliminary report, yeah, within 90 days. If I don't believe the final report was, the whole project was to be done within 6 months. But our target, and I think it should be a reflection upon the work that we do when somebody sends out an RFP and we can respond over the holiday. I think that reflects on the timeliness, how we can respond when you have us as a client. I don't know what everyone else is doing, but we work during the holiday. We take some time off, but we don't ignore client requests. When we get a call from a client or we hear from a client and we make a phone call and try to figure out if this is something we want to respond to, we don't respond to RFPs. About 80% of our work comes from existing clients. They ask us to come back, do additional work, do executive search, do interim work, do compensation studies. So 80% of our work comes from existing clients or referral. So whenever an opportunity for an RFP comes in the door, we don't just respond to it. We look at it very carefully. We look at the opportunity. We want to make sure that this is an opportunity for us to really make a difference. We don't want a report sitting on the shelf. We want it to be implemented and sustainable. And so this looked like a wonderful opportunity for us to make a difference, to participate in a meaningful manner, and to provide our consultants and our practitioners in a meaningful manner. So to answer your question, if you look carefully at the proposal, the preliminary report is within 90 days, and then we do additional data. So when we come in and we do observations and work with the staff, we observe, we are able to identify a lot of trends, a lot of things that we're seeing, and then we'll have the preliminary report put together. But what we like to do with our recommendations is have impact, financial impact, operational impact. We like to have that quantified, short-term, medium-term, long-term impact. If there's staffing implications, if there's training, if there's anything that we're recommending, we want to make sure that we have that quantified. So that is what we'll do some of that for the preliminary report. And then when we provide that preliminary report to the staff to review, to take a look at, they'll get us some additional numbers. We'll put a finer pencil to it, get some for the financials for the final report. So that's the time that it takes to do what we do. But as you can see from the reports that you have copies of, and we provided links of dozens of other studies that we've done. That is, those reflect the level of detail on a department by department basis. And as I mentioned in the council meeting last week, or a week and a half ago, when you have employees that are in cities that are still using that management plan a year later as their guide, that means that we did something right. So,
well, let's talk about employees just a second. Who are you going to be interviewing? Are you going to interview all 230 of our employees?
It depends on the department. I'll give you an example, police chief. When one of our police or law enforcement consultants, who's a practitioner, will come in, meet with the department, meet with the chief. He'll be looking at everything from vehicles to the facilities to the way that they staff, how they're staffing things. Most of the time, our consultants meet with the different members of the department. They'll meet with units. So if there's 3 different units, 3 different, sometimes you'll have a training unit, you'll have an operations unit, you'll have dispatch. So he'll work with each one of those subgroups and get to know the kind of hardware, software, communications equipment, all of that will be looked at by our consultants. So it's not just looking at a book, it's meeting with these people and interviewing them. And oftentimes, and it's important that we do that, not only meeting with the managers, but meeting with the subordinate staff, especially when you find things like some of the interpersonal challenges that might exist within an organization or sensitive issues. I'll give you an example. We were working with a municipality in Ohio, and the 2 of the department heads that we met with had claimed that one of the elected officials physically threatened them. But multiple department heads reported this. Those are sensitive types of things that we have to be very careful about. So yes, when we talk to staff, department heads, we're getting a very comprehensive overview of not only the technical things that are going on within the organization and opportunities on a technical basis or financial basis, but some of the other things that might require training, oversight, the attention of the city attorney in terms of reducing risk. There's a lot to it. So I hope that answers your question, that it's not just meeting with the department head. It's in the organization, hands-on, lots of interpersonal, lots of validation of what we hear, what we see.
All right. What was the last city close to the size of our municipality of 17,000, maybe closer by? What was the last that was comparable to our city that you did an evaluation for?
Let me, I'm in a car in a passenger side of a car at the moment. I got stuck in traffic, so bear with me 1 second while I'm pulling that up for you.
Calling for referrals, just to get a referral, you know?
One more second. It was my understanding that that was in that document. It may not be. Let me double check. We usually include the size of the municipalities. That's a wonderful question. I just wanted to find that for you. If you look on page 28, you'll see the size of the municipalities that we work with when we do comprehensive.
Okay, we'll move along because I had several questions. I was often writing questions, going over this research. We have 230 employees, and with our sanitary board, we have 270, and you gave us a timeline of 3 days in which you were going to interview these people. How are you going to manage that within 3 days? Is he there?
Yeah, he's still online. He may be having trouble on his end.
I'd be looking it up.
I think I've asked enough questions. If you all are good, I'm not sure he's still there.
Anyone else want to ask anything?
I had a couple questions for him, but if he got
Yes,
disconnected.
upon reading the extensive reports that was sent to us, it had from one department that council was not to become involved in personnel issues. Can you explain that, please?
Bear with me, I'm trying to reach out to him now.
Perfect. You gonna try calling him?
I don't think I have any more questions. Does anybody else? Okay. Oh, Cody
We'll
has
wait for
questions
him
too.
to-
Did he hear my
for Janine
question?
to-
And he
See if
didn't
he can answer
the Janine.
Janine's question when he comes back. Might just got cut off.
Okay, he's having connection issues on his end. So he is disconnected from the session.
Yeah. If that's
Where'd
the
he go
case,
now?
then if we want to write all those questions down, I can email those to him and I'll send those out. And then that way we don't have to wait on that. But with that in mind, we'll definitely be looking at reposting this based on
idea.
council input and get more time. Perhaps we can get more bids on that. In that case, I don't think there's any more questions. I think that's all I have for this work session.
Okay. With that, may I have a motion to adjourn? Second? Thank you, council. Well, those were good questions, Natalie.